amazing colleague for Verity here, so I'll let you. Yeah,
Sure.
I'll leave it with you.
I worked with Craig and Prof for a long time, for those of you who don't know me, and just in the last year and a half I've moved just across to uni to work as an academic. But that's really exciting because I get to teach physios about OI. So every physio that comes to Macquarie Uni knows what OI is.
Verity, I don't think people hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So I've moved over from clinical after 15 years with this team down here into the academic world. So all the physios who come through Macquarie Uni, the students learn what OI is, and they learn all about bone, and the doctors, I'm teaching them next week as well. You're on holidays, so I have to. And I also am doing research, and I'm lucky enough at the moment to have 6 months to focus primarily on research out of my uni time, and Fern kindly has given me a bit of time tonight to talk about what we're doing. So some of you may not really know much about research, many of you may have been involved before, and plenty of you may feel like this too, and you just don't want to know anymore, and that is completely fine because it's an individual decision. So if you want to be involved, fantastic, and if you don't, that's fantastic too. Okay, it's up to you. So as Craig mentioned, there's been lots of studies about medications. But what there isn't is very many studies about physical function, support, particularly in the adult world as well. And that's something which we're working on at the moment. We're also trying to work towards having you guys as a patient population have more say in your healthcare in terms of what you're receiving, when you're receiving it, and how you want to receive it too. So they're the studies that I just want to tell you a little bit about today. And if you're interested, please come and speak to me, or over there, being very quiet, is Marie Cousins, who's a physio from Belgium, who I'm doing some work with, and Nicole Pates, who's the physio from Perth, who works at the Children's Hospital there, and also in private practice. So one of the things we're trying to do with our research at the moment is really try and spread it around the country and a little bit around the world too, which is a nice opportunity for people to get involved if they're interested. So there's 4 studies, which at the moment one of them's not quite there yet, but I want to tell you about it because it's a really important one. So the first one is a study that I'm working on with Marie, Nicole's involved as well, and we're trying to look at functional abilities of adults with OI. So we know much, much more about children and what they can do, but we know very little about adults. And when I talk tomorrow, I will talk a little bit about the rehab consensus guidelines that we developed internationally about a year or so ago. That was published. That is consensus guidelines for rehab for children with OI. And the reason it's only for children is because when they reached out around the world, they actually couldn't find therapists who were experienced in the management of adults with OI. So they were trying to go across the lifespan, but people just weren't out there. And the research just isn't out there to help guide us either. So Marie is a physio, and she's doing her PhD over in Belgium at Ghent University, and she's just come out to visit here for the 2nd time. We have a little bit of a road show happening at the moment around Sydney, around Melbourne, up in New South Wales, all sorts of places. So if you are interested, I'll explain a bit more about that one. The next one is a study that I'm working on with a therapist from Queensland and one of the geneticists in Melbourne, where what we're trying to do is help come up with some better questions for any health professional to ask when you go and see them. Often clinics are really busy, and you walk in, you wheel in, and the doctor kind of goes, okay, mobility, in a wheelchair, walking with a stick, that sort of thing. But they don't tend to then ask you a whole lot more, particularly about things which, as a therapist, patients often complain about to me. So pain and fatigue. So we're a little bit more ambitious in our therapy studies because more people like to do research with us because we don't involve needles and blood tests and scans and things like that. Sorry. So we're aiming for 150 with this one. We're up to 130 people with any form of a bony condition, a skeletal dysplasia, any age. So that's the other study which we've almost got finished, which is bringing up some really interesting information. The final 2 are questionnaires. So the first one is when I press some buttons tonight, hopefully over my computer, will go live and can start being collected tomorrow. And it's for young adults with OI to tell us about what your experience has been preparing for transition from paediatric services into adult services, and as an adult when you first hit those services across medical, therapy, access, getting around all of those. So we can try and find out what's going on now and what do you think as an Australian healthcare system we can do better. And the final one isn't ready to shoot yet because it's still got to finish getting through ethics, but it's the big one. Where what we're trying to do is develop some allied health management guidelines for individuals with OI across the whole lifespan that are implementable here in Australia. So we're asking, which I'll get to here, and then I'll come back. We want to ask patients and we want to ask health professionals what they think. We're also looking at all of the literature, doing a systematic review. And when we pull that together, we'll sit down with some people and kind of talk it through and say, do you think this will work or not? Both patients and healthcare professionals, and hopefully come up with something at the end. And that's something we publish, like the guidelines that the doctors publish about medication. But hopefully that can be something that you guys can access on your OI Society website. So when you go to see a doctor who doesn't know much about OI, you can take it along with you and say, hey, it actually says I need to think about accessing a physio or an audiologist or a social worker for whatever the reason.
Can I make a question?
Yeah.
I've been in and out of hospital, not for OI reasons, since March. Got out 4 weeks ago. I have been to 2 hospitals that knew nothing about OI. I could not take my orthopod with me because the surgeon did not operate.
Yeah.
And it's been the worst 5 months of my life.
So I think there's lots to be done in educating people. Hopefully this will be one step, and hopefully you guys can help by not just maybe filling out a questionnaire or doing an interview with me yourself, but passing it on to the physio you've seen, the orthopaedic surgeon who gets OI, those people, and saying, hey, what do you think as well? Because we don't want it just to come from the expert centres, which are kind of already going. I occasionally get to go to the pub and drink beer with them and write things on posters too. Yeah, occasionally. So we have that happening. We kind of know what's going on here, but we don't know what's going on out in the community, and the NDIS is now in play, and lots more people could potentially be treating individuals with OI. So that's the reason that this one is coming up, and when it does, I'll pass it on to Fern and pop it on the Facebook page and those sorts of things, and hopefully it can take time. Because if there's lots of things you want to tell me, like sit down and write for hours, because we will read it all and we'll try and pull it all together. The other studies that I mentioned are all underway. So if you're an adult with OI and you would like to spend some time with us, we're pretty nice. About an hour and a half, do a physical assessment. We look at muscle strength, look at the way your joints move, see how your lungs are functioning as well. And then if you want to, or if you don't want to, either way, or if you just want to do this part, or if you want to do nothing, remember that's fine too. You can take away some little monitors that you wear for a week at home and fill out a whole bunch of questions for us to tell us about your sleep, your physical activity, your pain, your mood, your fatigue, those sorts of things. And because we like to include everybody, if you don't have OI and you're in the room, so if you're a parent or a family member or a friend of someone with OI and you would like to help with the research, we're after people without OI as well. There's controls. So we're age and gender matching, so we are a little bit picky, but we would love to have you guys involved too. Then the next one is the physical assessment, and then because we like to put things on people, there's more physical activity monitors if you do or don't want, and that's a quick half-hour assessment, and that's where we just need about 20 more people to be done. And finally, there's the questionnaire there for the young adults with OI, age 16 to 25. So I'll have the link for that one available tomorrow if anyone's interested. We have information sheets for everything, so if you are interested, please come and grab one, have a read, ask us any questions you want, and if you are still interested at that point, come and see us. We may be able to see you this weekend or tee up a time if you're in Sydney for sometime soon. If you live somewhere else in Australia, maybe sometime soon, depending on where we're travelling. Nicole's in Perth and she can do some assessments there as well. So I just want to let you know about this and thank you for the opportunity.